Hola manos, welcome to our ipsicafé scoping series where we take an idea, scope it live in real time, 1 hour at a time. My name is Alejandra, I'm a strategist and community organizer, and
I am Lizzie, a project strategist and a systems thinker.
so the first idea that we're scoping under this series is to create a blueprint that allows us to intentionally build and interweave networks so we can strengthen our communities and more effectively translate people power into structural change-making power.
Yes, and a quick recap of what we have done so far in 10 episodes. We based on the purpose of the project that Alejandro mentioned a bit ago. We see it as a system, and we started with a general brainstorming with the bubble methods that we use. Free flow of ideas, not right, wrong, everything gets in. And using critical thinking methods and frameworks, we ask questions, and more questions, because the more questions, the more ideas. So after that, we have a system with a lot of elements. We categorize them all based on certain common characteristics. We interconnect all those elements because it's a key essential part of systems thinking. Everything has to be interconnected. And with that, we build the work breakdown structure that is the WBS. With that, last week, we started then with the project charter, which it is the document that is going to be the guide to execution. We started with refining the problem, or summarizing the problem, the purpose of the project, and the objectives. And we have left for today the last objectives, that is the development of the blueprint, the deliverables.
Thank you very much, Lizzie, for that recap. Um, so yeah, without anything else, let's get into it. As always, I will note our time on the top left corner. I think it's really helpful to keep track of the details of the progress that we're making along the way. It also serves to retrain the brain in terms of how much actual time it takes to plan and how much time it can potentially save down the line. So today is 23 June 2026. And local time is 22. All right, so as Lizzie was recapping last week, what we're trying to do here is translate all of those bubbles, all of those colors, all of that structure into actual documentation, an actual guide for the execution of the project and implementation of all the different elements that we identified. In order to do that, we take the information that we have been working on and frame it within this project charter structure that Lizzie and I happen to work with. And we wanted to focus, because the project charter itself and everything that comes from there technically constitutes planning. We're not going to go super into detail about that, but we did want to show how we translate the bubbles into the definition of the project. So this first area on the top left of the project charter, to give an idea of how we bridge that part from just sort of generic bubbles, even if categorized and color coded. How does that translate into words and objectives and deliverables? So we're going to go a little bit into that. For the first half of the stream, we want to make sure to finish our objectives. And then the rest of the stream, the last half of it, we want to just talk a little bit about the different headings, the different areas that we're not going to be able to define, but just to give an idea of how we approach them. So as we've always been working and putting in every visual of the whiteboard that we've been working on, the project purpose is the project, is the idea that we've been brainstorming, categorizing, connecting. That becomes the project purpose in the charter. And then the objectives, what we like to do is from the work breakdown structure, the next level essentially becomes our objectives. So the first level of the work breakdown structure is the project purpose. And then the second level is the project objectives. And what we're doing here is, as the name indicates, we're breaking down the work that this project is going to take. So that's how we translate those colors. That second level of the work breakdown structure becomes objectives in our project charter. And we have little definitions that help us with this. And for project objectives, we ask what needs to specifically happen in order to achieve the stated project goal or project purpose. So far, we have 1, ensure all required aspects of the project are properly delineated and managed. That is tied to the first color that we have, the orange, what we called during the whiteboarding process, blueprint development. So that is the actual project itself. The second objective was research and analyze the context surrounding how communities gather, intentionally making space for diverse realities. And here we combined 2 colors, actually, a bit from contextual analysis, which actually we combined 4 colors almost.
Three, yeah, correct.
For contextual analysis, we had already combined humans, areas of interest, and barriers. So that was the yellow category, the green, and the gray. And we added part of the core values, making space, because we want to make sure that in order to really understand and analyze the context that we're working in, we're not just taking a narrow look into the spaces we happen to occupy. We want to make sure that we make space, as we said in objective number 2, for diverse realities. So looking at different types of people, different types of community, different ways of gathering, and really making space to have a holistic understanding of how different things affect different people. And then number 3 is the rest of the core values of the purple objective, essentially. The other side in terms of value alignment, and that is to embed the core values that Lizzie and I have identified for ourselves into all aspects of project planning, management, and deliverables. So it's not just values that exist sort of in abstract space. The way we prioritize them and really center them in our process is by creating an objective that then enables the work of really embedding these values into our work, from the planning to the management to the execution and to the deliverables at the end. And yeah, the blue would be the last category to translate into an objective. And because the blue category has always been really big, it's possible that we might end up with not just 1, but maybe 2 objectives out of this. So I was giving additional context. Now I'm going to sit and think of how we
and I would like
this.
to reinforce that not because we have 1 color that means 1 objective. As we saw, we have our 3 colors that were summarized later as 1 group for 1 objective, but we still will continue doing all the things that pertain to each of those categories. And same will be with blue. It could be 1, but it could have more than 1 objective. So this has to make sense to you. We have repeated that throughout our series. It has to make sense to you, what you do, and depending on your vision and your resources and how you're wanting to proceed with your project, it has to resonate with you and talk to you, so that that you know what you're doing.
Precisely. So this objective, this color was encompassing the blueprints, the output, the reason why we are embarking on this project. So I already off the bat, I'm thinking of the verb develop. One of the things I mentioned last time is that I like every objective to start with an actionable verb, because otherwise they tend to become just abstract and difficult to grasp as objectives that need to be achieved. So thinking of creating a blueprint, the verb develop comes to mind. What are you thinking, Lizzie?
No, I agree. And this is something that is not only for the objectives, but as we go down the WBS, or you will go down, things that have a verb uh, mean an action. And this is the key thing here is that we had an idea, and that idea has to become a summary of actions. So that's a critical aspect of the objectives too.
Definitely. So I came back to the structure to see what else was in what else we had identified. We had talked about the primary deliverable being visual. And I'm wondering if we want to state that in the objective, or if we don't necessarily want it to be
At that,
like
at
that
that
committed
level.
committed at that level.
Yeah, I think that's something lower level.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I wasn't sure. But I think the reason I was debating it was because it seemed like maybe it was too specific to be at the
Yeah.
objective level.
Maybe, yeah, because probably what that would be is the parameters of the deliverable, or the requirements, deliverable requirements would be a higher level than what the primary deliverable would be, right? So it would be probably establish the deliverable requirements. It would be, could be one of, I don't know if that at objective level or.
Yeah, I think like you said, some things are not going to be at this level, but we're not letting go
Capture
of
them?
any of these. As we continue to work the charter, we come back to a lot of these in order to see if they fit under the timeline, under deliverables, under so we will address that. But I'm going to bring them here just so we can have them visible. I'm going to write some words as they come, and then we can phrase something.
How do you like about deliverable requirements?
At the objective level?
Like replacing the primary deliverable. Because
well, the thing is that we're up here, right?
Right.
And then I'm trying to see what of the bottom. That's why I was thinking maybe phases would be part of it.
Yes, that would be no, that would not be at that level. That would be, I am thinking right now on the third level.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I think we definitely, because we're going to keep all this, we'll come back to that, but I'm not sure here. I was thinking some sort of map or decision support aid. I don't want to say roadmap because roadmap sounds very abstract.
I love roadmaps.
No, I know, but I if I'm trying to make clear what it is that we're developing, roadmap doesn't really tell me something specific. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Would you like execution phases, sequential, or
like develop execution phases? What do you mean?
Well, that roadmap, right? Because that's the idea we are putting here. Like we are going to have a roadmap.
But what are we developing specifically? Because it's not necessarily, it's not a document, right? It's I see it as like a decision helper. Not necessarily a decision helper, but like an organizer helper. I know it sounds silly, but because if we go back,
helper?
Well, if we go back to the project purpose, we want to create a blueprint that allows us to build community, not just build community, but also interweave our networks. So what is the blueprint itself? I don't know if we should just use the word blueprint, or if at here we should already be specifying a little bit of what that looks like. Because if we have it at the top level, I don't want to just repeat it at the second level.
I prefer to, I agree. So if I
Is
think
it like a guide?
Why did you say that it's not a document? Because it will be a document.
No, I said it's not just a document. That's what I meant. It's not like I don't want to produce a, just like a 40-page written PDF like that. I mean, maybe.
Right.
But I don't want it to be defined like that.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, I wanted to see if I could get more specific, if we could get more specific into what document, like what would this document do in order to help people build? Because that's the thing, right? Ideally, someone who wants to build community or who wants to interweave their existing network with other networks would be able to use this tool. I guess that's a word. Tool.
Or a framework. Because the framework is something larger from my perspective. I know that people use words sometimes interchangeable, and we, as you and I use it, framework is supported by tools. So I think the framework, because the tools, this is the hammer, and I'm going to use it for this particular reason. But then we have a framework for carpentry that has policies and that has requirements and has the non-negotiables and have who the network will be or what the community we want it to be, how it looks. So I that's what the requirements are. Maybe the word is not requirement, but I think it's a framework establishing the basic requirements for the operational reality that we want to know, right? For this blueprint. Well, that will be part of the blueprint. So the blueprint is just the map. It's a drawing with all the things are there. So it will be the detail, the interconnections within this bubble. How do you move from your decision of where are you going with this blueprint, how you are going to have this application, how it's going to be the logistics, all these elements that you have there on the third level, they are going to be interconnected in the blueprint to have this operational reality that you're looking for, to intervene with your network, to leverage the power of everyone in the network.
Okay, I'm processing. I feel like requirement sounds really rigid.
Harsh. I know.
Which is why I'm hesitant to write them, because ideally it should be more of a guide. It's not like if you don't do these things, this operation doesn't work.
Right.
So
and this is what I mentioned, because I come from that corporate world and very engineering heavy with requirements. All right.
But yeah, if we're thinking about
let's use guide. I like guide, because the guide is something that people can take, or we
instead of framework, you mean? Or guiding framework?
I want to keep framework, because the framework is
where were you
no guiding. I develop a guiding framework. Sounds appealing to me.
Okay, we can start there. Develop a guiding framework for, I think, individuals and groups. I want it to be applicable for like a single person to be able to apply this to build something. But I also want it to be applicable for existing groups that want to either grow or want to interweave. So we have those two aspects in the project purpose.
Do you want to give some qualitatives to, or should we give some qualitatives, or the purpose, develop a guiding framework for, or develop a framework for guiding individuals and teams
Develop a guiding framework that's for individuals and groups. And what do they want? What do we want to be we're using this blueprint. What do we want to be supported in doing, or what do we want to be guided in doing? And part of what we're trying to do here is continue to bring down everything that we have in the project purpose. So in the same way that blueprint has become a guiding framework or a framework a bit more specific, now that we're talking about building or interweaving, like how can we make reference to that at a bit more detailed level.
I like it as it's written in number 5. I like it like through the different phases, because that probably we can set it up that way, because we are going to have some phases. Depends, right? Depends on resources, because maybe you have a person that said you're going to do all the research, you are going to do this type of activity. So, but maybe we can put it like through the different aspects of the
Oh yeah, because I think phases makes it sound linear.
a
almost.
timeline. Yeah, it phases it. I like phases in certain terms, but it's so attached to time that people see it as sequential things. So
Yeah,
it's
I like
different. I
aspects.
don't know if it's phases. Let's put aspects. Yeah, phases I always struggle with. I like it, but when it's very specific and
I think there's a time where it applies, but I think here
yeah,
it's not necessarily sequential.
yeah, through the different aspects of the
Of organizing, of
I would say if it's organizing, I would different organizing aspects.
no,
So we
because I
put it
think then you
before.
get into like organization and less about like community organizing. Or I think it starts sounding like that to me. I'm not sure. Look, a framework that guides individuals and groups through. I'm gonna remove the article from different, because otherwise it sounds all encompassing, the different aspects. But
Yeah, through different aspects. Yeah,
can't
because
claim that
it could be.
it's inevitable that there are things that weren't obviously. This is not going to be all encompassing
If you,
or
I
exhaustive.
would, yeah, I would put community organizing if you, to be more precise, because organizing alone or with what else could be of.
Well, tell me more.
Because we're talking about strengthening our communities, right? That's pretty much the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional building interweave, so we can strengthen the community. So what are we doing with the community? There has to be an organizing. There has to be like, it's like the bubbles that we had at the very beginning. They are all floating around.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are going to interconnect them. That's how I see the same process. So here it would be that framework It is how we are going to do this to have through the different aspects of community organizing, because now it is narrow. Now we don't have the project management, all the things that we have in the three objectives above. Now we are getting to the meat. Shouldn't say that because I'm vegetarian, but to the core of the blueprint output.
Do you think this can stay as one objective, or do you think there's an aspect of it that needs to be captured in a fifth objective?
Let me go one by one. So we have the Star Blueprint application. I don't know if, so we have share reality, share motivations, find humans. We have contextual analysis, which is part of the research. Then we have all the operational and logistics aspects. And we have all the communicational and human aspects. And then how we are going to deliver. I think that probably the first four are part of the framework, and the last one, the deliverable, could be a fifth objective, because that deliverable is not necessarily a document. That's like if we are thinking, let's assume like a strategic planning, if we make that analogy, it is now that's the roadmap. That's something that you are not, it's not a book, it's something that you are going to share, it's something that you are going to promote, it's something that is going to be known. That's pretty much your dress for the party, and that dress, it is just like, that's the visibility of the whole work. So I think the first four from left to right are part of the framework from what I see at this very minute, and the last one, it is that the final strategy to share, and that final strategy includes.
So I think it's how we're presenting the framework. So I think if I understand what you're saying is, so number 4, develop that framework. That could be that 40-page PDF written document. And then what we want for objective 5 is translate that into a visual, practical, correct, applicable something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that is because that will be like your presentation card, if you will. It sounds like it's just a deliverable, but it's not. It contains
what
everything. It is like your business card. Like
no.
Like when
I understand. I understand what that means. I just mean, I'm asking you what you mean by that.
Because now it's like your elevator page with your flyers. It's like your branding. It's the branding of that network. And that.
But this is us. This objective is what we are producing at the end of this project. So we're gonna take that research. We're gonna take number 2, and we're gonna make a framework based on those learnings. And then we want to visualize that framework. So this is not like what people are producing.
No, but it will be a guidance that they will produce. It will be a similar, because they will have also the framework. I mean,
but they're not trying to create a blueprint.
They may.
Okay. Let me think.
So you think, okay, so you're thinking that the final, it is the blueprint, this is how you do it?
But this is because like I see, this is the what?
And number 4 is how is all the support and the frames to build the 5th objective. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because the primary deliverable in terms of this, or the way I was thinking about it in this format is the primary deliverable of this project, not of the blueprint, like whoever's applying the blueprint, but the primary deliverable of this project that you and I are taking on. So I was thinking as the visual, because I've always, a board game or a map, I've always thought about, but that won't be able to contain all that. So I like the idea of the faces and the different aspects being captured in a framework, but then being able to, because that's one of the barriers I have found personally in my organizing experience, is that there are a lot of toolkits. There are a lot of resources out there that exist of people who have organized. I have built some, but there still seems to be, there's a barrier. To me, it's difficult to apply that. It's difficult to look at really heavy Word documents and then apply those concepts in practical ways in a community space. So that's why I was trying to figure out how we can make this information, because the information exists. It is my opinion that it exists. It just isn't practical, I guess. So to me, the idea of like making a game, a board game, something like that, something really visual and engaging, could potentially bridge that.
You just said it. Perfect.
What did I
So
say?
develop a practical blueprint, or develop a blueprint as a practical visual to engage communities in their organizing. How does that sound? I was trying to develop. You can say
so I
blueprint.
know it's silly that I don't want to repeat verbs, but I tend to not, but we can change develop the framework. We can change that, and then but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll add it. Develop.
I would like to keep the word blueprint because that's the final deliverable. And then you can say a blueprint as a practical visual mechanism. I'm just throwing words and to help communities engage and move forward with their organizing purposes.
I started writing words and then I forgot what words you were saying.
Design development blueprint as a practical visual.
I don't know about mechanism. But
because you mentioned that if you repeat again what you have lacked, because you said that there are tools, there are a lot of resources, there are kits, you have evaluated them, you have designed some, but there's a gap, and this blueprint will act as a bridge between tools, resources, and the purpose. Probably it could be that enables its accessible application, enables that enables communities.
Enables accessible ways. Because now I'm thinking maybe part of number 4 comes down here, and we better define the framework. because I think the second half of the fourth objective, I feel like is because I think we were trying to combine what we now have as 4 and 5. Because that guidance, like, yes, the framework will have that, but the idea is that people will not be reading necessarily a framework. That framework will be guiding.
It's already digested. It's already. Yeah.
Well, if we're thinking that the fifth, that deliverable is what's going to be applied, then that's what would be doing the guidance. What do you think?
So you said like it would be a blueprint, a practical visual mechanism that enables accessible ways to guide organizing, to guide community organizing.
Maybe that enables accessible ways.
Oh, develop maybe if you want to use that in the fifth and the fourth could be develop a framework that informs the foundation for the blueprint. Because the framework is going to give me all the foundation. It's going to establish how I'm going to build that blueprint. So develop a framework that informs the foundation of the blueprint, and then they develop a blueprint as a program. How about that?
Would this part stay the same?
No, no, because the way I mentioned before, I said create a framework that informs the foundation for the blueprint. For the blueprint. And the other one would be to develop a blueprint as a practical visual mechanism. Mm-hmm.
What else is in the blueprint if this is if the if this is just a foundation? Nah, I think I'm getting too specific.
Yeah, well, it is just a foundation, but it's the whole foundation. It's everything that we have in those 4 bubbles to the left, from left to right.
No, I think part of my question was, do we need the word foundation other beyond the creative framework that informs the blueprint? Or you do?
I like the foundation, yeah.
Okay. And then develop a blueprint as a practical visual mechanism that enables accessible ways for individuals and groups to organize. Okay. I think that is good enough for now. What do you think?
I like it a lot.
Awesome. And yeah, and that is how
we define objectives. And this is something, as you can see, that there are tweaks here or there, but again, it's something that has to talk to everybody, and then to have a buy-in from the team and the people that are involved. Because, for example, Alejandra was saying, foundation, I like it, and then it doesn't matter to her. But if there's something that really doesn't align, then you can discuss more and talk to the team, and then until everybody gets to a consensus. So now we go through the different aspects of Project Charter. So we walked people through it.
Yeah, I just really quick wanted to do the overview of the objectives, we always have a project management related objective. So that is number one, is how we're going to execute this whole project. Then two, we're going to research and analyze the context. We're going to embed our core values into every aspect of this process. We're going to use the research and analysis from objective two to create a framework, which then is going to inform the blueprint, which is number five, which we're going to develop as a practical visual mechanism to enable accessible ways for individuals and groups to organize. So that is levels 1 and 2 of the work breakdown structure, translated from visual whiteboard tool to written project charter text. Lizzie, do you want to discuss the other part of project definition? I don't know if you wanted to say specifically something about success criteria or project scope. But you're muted, Lizzie.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is the way how we summarize the information. There's a lot that comes here from my experience, from Alejandra's experience, and from PMI that is, has all these standards for project management. So the best practices, we see that all these elements are here, should be evaluated. Maybe some are not necessary, but they should be evaluated and taken off if they are not applicable. So in the project definition, another thing that we like to have at this level is the success criteria. And we have a lot of items there to specify what we mean by each of the elements. So for success criteria, what specific factors will contribute to this project being described as a success? And this is, when we do this, we are very truth to ourselves. It is not like we're going to go a book and then we are going to find out what makes success. So what is success for you? A success of amount of networking that you reach. Is about the one specific community that you want to have formed in a specific timeline. It is how to bring together two groups that are contrarian to each other, that have like different points of view, whatever you have, that is. In our case,
can you think in our case one that comes to mind?
And that comes to mind, it is like, for me, one of the things I see is that definitely the values are embedded in every aspect of the development of the blueprint and the blueprint itself. Also, we could think that the research is wide enough, because sometimes the research are biased. And here we want to have an open mind. We have one of the values is inclusion. So a success criteria could be ensure that we have a broad research, that it's not that we look where we want to look, but maybe because, so those are at least the first thing that come to mind. I mean, this is something that we have to analyze and evaluate with calm. But at this moment, I would say, I think it is to ensure our values are in every aspect of what we do. The second is that we have a research that goes beyond, that encompasses a broad of people gathering, and the third would be to have the visual that is appealing and that is
the first one that came to mind to me was, this could be established as a number or in many ways, but having a really as you said, broad group of sources, different people from different spaces, from different communities, that can bring in and share that knowledge of how they approach organizing and interweaving networks. And I feel like that would be, in and of itself, being able to capture that knowledge, I think would be a major point of success for this project. All right, so project scope. Another part that we find really important is to define, explicitly say what is in scope and what is out of scope. When we talk about in scope, we're talking about what is explicitly part of the work required to carry out this project. And out of scope is what is explicitly not part of the work required to carry out this project. In a lot of ways, the way I describe the bubble method is defining the boundaries of the scope. So we have captured the scope with this whiteboard, and this is one of the moments where we have to translate that into, okay, what are we doing and what are we not doing as part of this project? Thoughts, Lizzie?
Yep.
Those are not thoughts.
Yeah,
It's just a word.
You're asking. You're
Yeah, I
asking
said
me?
what your thoughts are about in
Oh,
scope and
I
out of
guess
scope.
I was because I was grabbing a pencil to do. Yeah, exactly. So it is really important sometimes. Say, okay, we are going to do this. The out of scope is as critical because that's when the surprises happen later. What we are not doing, and that is intentional. I'm not doing this, but it's not because I missed it. It's because we decide not to do it. So
Yeah, one example that comes to mind perhaps is we're not going to aggregate and publish our research findings necessarily. Or we're not going to, like, the framework itself might not be like shareable. We have that objective, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be in the scope. Sharing it publicly is going to be in the scope. Again, this might or might not be. We haven't gotten here. We have to have this discussion, but it would be a decision to decide. Valga la redundancia. It would be necessary to decide so we can intentionally know if we're just writing this to document it or we're writing this and then have to edit it and share it.
yes. For assumptions and constraints, they come for me hand in hand. Assumptions is the things that we assume to be true, but we don't know. We don't have evidence. And that is not, oh, I assume I can do it. No, it is, for example, one of the things that comes to mind is I am assuming that I am going to be able to talk in person because if that's something that I want to do with the different networks that or the different groups that are around my neighborhood. And it is an assumption because I don't have, if that doesn't happen, if I get closed doors, I have to find a mitigation to evaluate certain aspects that are not, that I have no access. So it would be, for me in this case, I think the research part is because for me it's critical. Who are the SMEs? An assumption is that we are going to find experts, that we are going to find good information on what is already out there. But what happens if we don't find it? So those are the kind of assumptions that we will be working there. And constraints are what limitations we have. Do we have enough time to do this? What is the timeline that we want to have this done? Do we have, if we want to have a practical visual, a very good visual, do we have the resources or the
Or the
art and
skills.
talent? I know we do because for me, Alejandra is a super artist, but do we have the time? Does she have the time, the resources, the skills of how she wants to have it as a visual person that she is? So those are the things that we put in the constraints and could be more. But normally time resources are there and because we know that we are limited, especially with this um, this type of work with communities. People may not be available. People that we want to talk about this that are going to help us with the research may not be available. Um, so those are my thoughts there.
Cool. Thank you. The next one is deliverables. And the way I personally like to take on deliverables is using the objectives as guidance in the same way that I use the project purpose as the level 1 in the work breakdown structure, project objectives being the level 2, then deliverables to me are project 3 or level 3. And here we're looking at what tangible outputs result from each objective. So what deliverables, what tangible things do we need to produce in order to achieve each of these objectives that we have set out? to do. And it might be drafts of something, it might be lists of something, it might be summary reports, it might be, but the idea is for them to be tangible. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, talk to this person. That's not a tangible deliverable. It might be that I'm going to create a summary report of all the interviews I did with the people I talked to. That is a tangible deliverable, but just talking to people is not a deliverable. That would be a task. So under
Correct.
that deliverable of creating a summary report of all the people I'm going to interview, under that would be the next level, the fourth level of our WBS, which would be tasks. So what do I need to do that summary report of all the people I interviewed? I need to interview people. So I might need a list of people I'm going to interview, to actually interview people, to
develop this design the interview.
All of that, exactly. So that is for each objective. I copy them in the deliverable section, and then I just sit there and brainstorm what tangible things do I need to produce this, and then figure out, okay, what else do I need something else to produce one of these, and that's how I keep narrowing down and getting to a bit more specificity, to the point where I have specific tasks that I or my team can do.
Right. And the tasks normally are not part of the project charter, but you can have a project plan. You can scratch charter and put project plan. And then when you have those deliverables, you can create those list of tasks that you need to like, that's the best example that, what Ali said about a summary report is a deliverable, but the summary report contains all the summary of the interviews. But to do the interviews, you have to make the list, design the survey, make the survey, analyze the survey, etc. And those are tasks. And the tasks have always, they should start with a verb. So that tells you what to do, because those are actions.
Precisely.
For miles, yeah. Go ahead.
No, really quickly, I wanted to say one of the things we do after we finish our charter is remake our work breakdown structure. So right now, it's still, even though we had a draft and then we cleaned it up a little bit, once we have all the objectives and all the deliverables, we might come back, depending on the type of project, and if we decide it's relevant or helpful, we might come back and create this visual with the final information, very neat, very clean, and with all the information relevant to the project, to
right.
the deliverable level.
Right, and that will be a part of the project scope, because that's kind of the boundary of your project. So maybe I am noticing that for a future, we may have a third box in scope, out of scope, and the WBS, because that's not the refinement of that, and that's part of your project scope.
Precisely. Just have a few more minutes, so let's touch on, just really quickly go through the rest. Lizzie, take on milestones.
Well, milestones are, as we say there, the most notable points in the project, which informs that we have done a certain aspect of the project and that we are in progress. We have completed something that is relevant. For example, for this case, and I'm going to bring examples because we cannot go through all the milestones, but it is not necessarily the submittal of all the deliverables, but it could be we finalize research. That could be a milestone. All the research has been done, and we completed the summary research. So
and that could be like halfway through objective 2, for example. It doesn't even need to be a specific deliverable. It doesn't need to be the finishing of a particular objective, but because we have research and analyze, finishing the research itself could be a milestone that indicates that progress towards, okay, now we're going to analyze, and sorry to interrupt, but carry on.
Right. So that the way to help with the milestone is see all your objectives, your deliverables, and see what do you think there that are critical, that you, okay, if I don't do the research, you certainly are not going to be, you don't have enough information, you don't have enough critical data from different communities or different gatherings. So just think of what are these notable points in your project. Um, and that we have the project timeline where we normally create it like in a, depends on the project. You can use software there. We normally put timelines in either in Microsoft project or in an Excel file, depends on the size of the project, and then you establish your tasks there. And we like it to have, you put all your tasks per deliverable, per objective. So you are always tied to the objective. So you know how you are progressing within each of the objectives are going to help you to reach your goal. And
Yeah, there's no point
ideally,
at which there's anything that's being worked on that isn't integrated and completely connected to the purpose, because this is how we
right,
build the project and everything that
right,
one works on during the project. And the
yeah,
timeline, just to add to what Lizzie was saying, this can be applied to various complexities. So it can be as basic as June planning, July research, August framework,
calendar, yeah,
and it can
calendar
just be a
format.
bullet point like list like that. It can be like Lizzie mentioned in an Excel sheet or in some other software, or if it's a super complex project, it can be in Primavera and have a Gantt chart. It really does come down to how complex the project is and what the people involved need.
Right. Yeah. And even I have been in very complex projects where we have huge softwares for managing thousands of tasks and deliverables, and sometimes we have to create little calendars for tasks that we have to do in a couple of months. So anything that helps you to track your activities is important. With budget and cost, it's just what do you have for the project. Maybe if you don't have any money, it doesn't matter what resources you have. What do you need? Some money that maybe you will need, we will need. In this case, it will be, you know, we are not going to have any particular budget unless that we want to have somebody develop the visuals or print the blueprint in a specific format, or
And that
professional
depends. Yeah, that depends. That will
printing.
probably be like out of scope. For example, that might be,
Exactly.
and this is why this process is not linear. As you're defining these, we might decide, you know what, part of this project can't be the production and sharing of the physical blueprint. It might be we decide that that's out of scope and we just create the mock-up, and then we can create another project where we go and find someone to sponsor that. But yeah, a couple of more minutes. Lizzie, do you want to speed run through these?
Yeah, so for risks, SWOT, it is a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We evaluate what are our strength. In this case, for example, Alejandra is very strong with community organizing. Weaknesses, we have to see, well, we don't know everything that is around us. We need to understand certain groups that we may not be familiar with. Opportunities, this is a great opportunity to promote these threats, what threats we have associated with that. And then we analyze those and we put mitigation plans to avoid, any obstacle there. For resources, what do we count on? In this case, Alejandra and I, we are two humans working here. Equipment is what we have. Materials, we also have what materials and resources are in libraries or in, community centers.
Yeah, even our networks, our other
Our network, there
humans
are
that will be able
resources,
to tap
right?
into
Yeah,
in this process.
and we will be listing them there because then you have the structure and it's not heavy. You have this, and this is not a heavy process. It is structured, and it will help. Communications, always how you are going to communicate, how we communicate. We establish our lines of communications. The best way is email for me or WhatsApp for them. For you establish that there. And
Yeah, how the
for the
project team
last
will
two,
communicate, what will be
mhm,
communicated when, how will it be communicated, and who needs to know it. As long as
yeah,
that is transparent and clear from the beginning, then that helps a lot with information flow, because then people know what to expect and then they know who to go to if they, oh, hey, I didn't receive this X thing that I was expected to receive. There is a path to clearing that up.
mhm. And well, the last we have their qualities, we are going to put we establish what we will measure this as a quality product, and
Here's where the
other
requirements come
processes.
in that you wanted
This is
to figure
exactly,
out
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. So, and other processes, what other things I need to establish to ensure that there's effective operations of the project. So anything that comes to mind, it could be there. So in a nutshell, this is how we proceed with Project Charter. The structure allows us to be efficient because we don't have to be looking at what we have to put there. We have a list here that is vetted by, I tell you, by hundreds of years of experience in project management, and without fail, you really want to have all these elements in your project.
And as we are writing those out, usually we wouldn't be working on the whiteboard. We would already be working on a Word document. But as we're defining all that, we keep the work breakdown structure that I have on the screen. We keep that visual because there's a lot of elements that we've already identified that go into those places. It is really important that all of these elements that are just still floating in the categories that we've identified and translated into objectives, that those get captured in the charter as well. So that is how we translate our brainstorm, category, connection, visualization into project documentation. And I think that marks the end of our scoping process. I think this has been a very interesting experience. I was terrified and I'm still terrified, but I am really happy that we got through an entire scoping of a project. It's a very different experience to go through it and do it all the time, you and I. It's very different to have to then explain the process. So I think it has been a really interesting challenge. What has been your experience, Lizzie?
Well, it has been a great experience, and I was terrified at the beginning as well, but honestly, your leadership has dropped my levels of fear. You have a very good way to manage the process that we have done every Tuesdays since 11 weeks ago, or 12. I think we have one break. But it has been a great experience, and I hope that this can serve the purpose that we wanted. I can help other people to be guided in the development of a project charter from an idea.
Yeah, thank you very much. We will aim to do a second series toward the end of the year where we once more are going to take a new project and scope it live in real time, 1 hour at a time. But until then, check out our LinkedIn pages to stay up to date on when that can possibly be. As always, if you're looking for support with a specific idea, project, or strategy, we are going to continue offering free office hours every week, and you can use the link in the description to sign up. As I've mentioned, we want to do an ipsicafé special event the second half of the year as well, and you can keep updated on our social media, linked in the description. So is there anything else you want to say, Lizzie?
No, thank you very much to you and to everybody.
Get some rest y hasta la próxima. Chao.
Ciao.